Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Today is day 12 of DDCDP23, day 12 of PHP in DDCDP23, and part 2 of building MVC framework in PHP. Today we will be adding slug based routes and use reflection method class to dynamically pass arguments to controller methods, and we will also improve our views and a lot of other improvements to the system we built in the first part of this series. So let's dive in. Welcome to the part 2 of MVC framework in PHP. We will further improve the router we have been building in the first part. If I go to router.php or maybe index.php, so we have certain routes. This I had commented out the other ones, but now we have this working route. So the first part of the URL will be controller and the second part will be action. Yesterday we did some hack. Actually it should not be so. Generally the routes are added like this hash. The first hash is there in the routes. Okay, so if you remember, as one of the routes pass was not getting matched, so what we did was, if I go to the router and here I added this, the main regex, I added the hash so that it is matched. But what we will do is we'll remove it from here, and then this we can trim the route. So for example, in the index.php this route is there, but if you trim it by slash, so it again will become this. It has an advantage. So if somebody adds some route which doesn't have this leading slash, it will be it will be working fine in the match. So let us remove this slash from the route here, the first slash. So whatever is passed to this change route to regex method, so we will use route equals trim route and then slash. So what it will do, it will trim the leading slash from the route for us. Similarly, if a path is passed here, for example, let me dd path for now, and yesterday we had created some controllers. Which one was it? Cricket about. Okay, so let us try cricket about and see what the path is. So if I go to sorry, I need to start my ddef. By the way, if you are not yet using ddef and you are PHP developers, I will strongly encourage you to start using ddef. It has a lot of advantages. It is Docker based, and if you are a Drupal developer, then you must use it. Okay, so this is the path was cricket slash about. So what the path is? Slash cricket slash about. So the path is, if we access cricket slash about, so what the path is? The leading slash is there. So we can trim it too. And in router.php here, rather than dd, what we can do is trim. Let us assign it the same variable, path equals trim path and how should we trim it? By the creating slash. So now if I dd path, what it will be? The first one, this one will be gone, right? So probably this is the better approach. Okay, so now if we access it, we are getting the, so it was not important to add a slash in the returning regex here, where it was, here it was, we have removed it from here. Now even if somebody adds a slash to the router or not, they will be getting consistent results. Now the next step is we have added this router. If you go to index.php, these router settings, controller and action, so this is working. Now I want something, basically they are called slugs. So let me go to, maybe I need to start for that site as well. Detail start. This is a Drupal site. I just want to show you something actually. Content, and if I add content, for example, I am going to add a basic page in Drupal. So this is a test page and I just save it. So notice the URL. The URL is node/something. Okay. Similarly, we can have node/some number of, this is basically the ID of the node, is basically an article in Drupal. Okay, so this is the path, this is the route actually. So node is part of the route, static.
Yes,
okay, and this is dynamic value, which you can use for get parameters, right? Node/this. So this value, this number value is known as slug normally. If you have some static value like this and then product. Similarly, if I go to users, so user/1 is admin, for example, this. So this is slug for the user entity and so on. So you got the point. How can we what actually slugs are? So right now we have no let me do the same node stuff here. So I will add another one, or maybe just quickly copy this. So controller, it should be hard coded, not getting it as a variable. So it will be node slash, and this should be some number. Okay. So how can we do it? It should be like maybe slug. I can call it slug. Call this, and then /d plus. This is for number in regular expressions, and the plus means one or more times, right? But this actually is just a representation of this route. Now we should grab it as it is from the route once it is matched. So now we have created one route, which means node/slug and then this, so it will match something like node/10 and so on. Okay, what do you expect if it matches node/10? According to this one, for example, add to routes, what should it be?
Controller should be node
And
direction should be table.
okay, but this method never starts with a number, right?
Yes, sir.
So that's why if you remember the older routes, these are the older routes, we have a separate array as well.
Yes, sir.
So we can still pass, even in dynamic routes, some array like this. So here, as a second parameter to the add to routes function, we'll use the controller array and action array, right? So it will be, the controller will be node, right? And the action will be whatever, display, or maybe display for now. Okay, so if now node/10 for example is the path, so what should be we calling, what should be the controller? Node, and action should be display. That's it. So it is important to know that our routes can be even dynamic like this, but still we can provide an array of functions, methods, and the controller. Is this clear? Okay, now we should do the same for this part of the router as well. Where should we be doing this? In the match method, in the change route to regex. So for now we have two routes, right? So if we are looping through the routes here, okay? So this will be recap also for the function. For now I will just print, or not print but rather dump route, and I will exit. So the best thing is, but it will just show one. So after the route, maybe dump is fine for now. Let us see if we are getting both the values. So now we'll close the Drupal one. Okay, so if I access for now node/10 or whatever, basically it is not matching at the moment, so we should have it outside the route. Dump this node/slug this. We already are getting this one, the first one. Okay, that's the one we are getting. Why are we not getting the second one in the router? Add to routes, this. So maybe around detail and this. Okay, if we just print matches, dump matches, okay, leave it for now. We just wanted to print this first route, this one. Okay, so this is the route. Now we need to, if you remember the 4 lines I wrote yesterday as comments in the code, what were they? These are the ones. Loop through all the routes in the array, convert each route entry to its regex pattern, match the path with regex pattern, and if it matches, return the controller in action. Okay, so what we can do is, we are already looping through it here. Then convert each route entry into its regex pattern. So here we have created this method change route to regex, and it returns the pattern. And where is this? So this is the that method. We'll remove the else for now, this one. So because this one was for the first route, if you remember, this one, controller and action, but now we want this to be for this one as well. Where is it? This one, node / slug. This one has been covered already. Now we need to have a regex for node / slug something. Okay, so let's do that. Here we will, to save some time, we'll just copy the first one, pattern, this, and we can call it $pattern underscore slug equals something, and this will be pattern underscore slug. Okay, let's write that pattern. It will be exactly like this, but just with a few tweaks. Okay, so let's copy that as well. If you remember, if this part should remain the same, this part. Okay, but then we should have colon, which should be exactly like this. So this is going to be slug or anything. Now colon, and then a separate like this group, which should have dot and this. Okay, so if this is slug, for example, this one is slug, and this one should be anything after the slug. And what I told you yesterday, what does the dot mean? Wildcard character, so 0 or more times, or maybe we can use plus also. So this is the regex for matching what? This. In the index.php we have this. So for example, node will be picked out automatically, but this one is, so the first part is that, and this is the second part. So what will it match? It will match actually this whole string if it is found, this one. Okay, and I will demo it how it is doing it. So let us now go to that router method again, this one. So this first part, this is a capture group, this one. So this will basically match slug. Then colon, this is hard coded, colon is hard coded, and then this one will match /d plus. Okay, okay, if it matches this element, so what should it do? We will return its corresponding regex. Okay, it's confusing. You have to compare it with this regex. This is the source regex, and then you will have to return the regex corresponding to that particular route. Okay, so this is my question to you. The matches one array will match what? This part, this slug, and then the second match will be this one. Okay, sorry. So this one will be the first part, dot matches this, and we will remove this now because we are not doing the second part here, and it will be, this is the capture group, then dot the concatenation and matches 2, matches 2, then the dot is concatenation, and then this. Is this okay, or we are missing something? Okay, for now let me just print. One more thing, how do you want this to be returned? This is a very thoughtful thing, this one, because we are looping. If you remember, in the router, this function, we are exporting the route by this, so it becomes an array, and then looping through it in the array underscore match function. So the first part of in the first loop, EL will be this node. So do you think we should change it to some regular expression, or we should take it as it is? We should take it as it is. We should not convert it into regular expression. So here, if this is the pattern for the first route, right? If it matches something, one portion, so we return what? This regular expression. Now we have used the slug one, so if it matches the slug part, it should return this. But if it doesn't match these two, so we should return $EL as it is. For example, the node, it is not matching any of these two.
Yes,
That's why we should return the node as it is without changing it. And here pattern is this now, and if I dump $pattern, let us see how it is now. Node/10. So this is the regular expression which is being returned now. The pattern is node/, because we wanted this one to be returned as it is. Then the slash, and this has begun the capture group. This is the capture group. Maybe there is something, an extra star here. We need to remove this one.
We have already used the plus sign
Yeah, we
inside
need.
the controller and action inside the routes.
Yeah, so here we need to this star.
Yes.
This is not needed. Good point. So if we refresh it, now this is the regular expression. This is capture group, and this is named capture group, so it's going to be slug. And whatever is now after this, in the URL, for example, this one, this is the number we will be expecting. So node/10, this is just the number, and this slug is, why do we have named capture groups? So that in the matches array we can catch them. Ignore these errors, by the way, okay, so that we can catch them in the matches array. So we will now uncomment this, remove the dump. So here, once it is the turn for, if we get we are getting the pattern here. Even if we dump it here, it will be available too, because we are using the method here. So if preg match this, what we should do is, let me just dump the array for now. Dump matches. So you can see we are getting slug 10, but this is not enough. We need to get the array in the router as well. What's that array? If you remember, we have used this array. We have used this array, if you remember. So we need to get node also, as well as display also, so that all of these are three are in the same array for us. Now here, if you can see, preg match this, so matches is equal to array filter this matches. Okay, so we are looping through the routes here. This dot routes as route, so this is the key and this is what? Detail. So if I dump detail also, what do you expect?
It has the controller and action.
Exactly. So the second array's detail is node and display. The control is node and action is display. So now we have two arrays. One, the matches shows us slug and the other one shows us these two. But we want both of these to be a single array for so that we can return it. How can we do it?
In the single array, sir.
How can we add these two into one single array? So what we can do is, one way is to use array underscore merge function, but here we can use plus also. So it will add both the arrays into one single array and return it. So if I, maybe we can call it some variable, for example complete array or anything, underscore array equals this, and we can use the array underscore merge function also, and then we will return the complete array here, or detail array, or whatever you can call it. And if I dump complete array now, what would you be expecting?
It will have both the slug and controller and action also.
Undefined details, what it is? Okay, so it's not details, it's detail. So now all of the three are in the same array. Is this fine? And below this you can see we already are getting errors for the controller because it kind of is functioning. It is searching for app controllers node which is not yet we have created. So this is the final array we have got from the slugs, right? And let me remove the dump, and we are returning the complete array. Okay, where are we using this match function? We are using this match function in index.php. So here it is router match, this one. So the detail here will be, now for this it will be the three elements array we have. So it is calling controller which is not there. By the way, we have to correct that as well. Yesterday we created articles controller, so we will do that too today. Okay, so the next thing is we have to create a controller called node, new file, node.php, class node, and what was the
Display.
Let me check. Action is equal to display, so the action should be display. Public function display, and that's it. Okay, here we will just print for now, this is the display of node, whatever it is, right? So now we have the class as well as the method. So do you think if we access the same page again, it will be available now?
Namespace.
Oh yeah. So the namespace is, what should it be? App slash controllers. So this is the display of node. Now it is working properly. So in real world, what you can do is, what can you guess from this? For example, this is node.php, this is now controller. It will call the respective model, for example, if it is for some node, and then query the database and get this 10 ID, and we are shortly going to pass those IDs as well to the functions. This one is 10. You can grab it in the methods of controllers as well. So let us just try another thing, and right now we have done two controllers, two routers, this one and this one routes. So we can add other routes as well. So for example, within this route we can have slash, again we can have something like this, and maybe ID equals, not equals but the same slug like stuff plus. So what should be the URL for this? For example, if I have to access this, this is a route now, so what URLs should this comply with? An example,
Controller.
any controller. So for example, if we have a class called article slash 10 slash action is show, something like this, so it will now be matching this route. So we will have then a controller for article and show and so on. Okay, is this clear? So now you can have any number of such routes. Okay, for example, you have something for maybe products. So what should be the path? Product slash 10, for example. What should be the route for products slash 10? So it should be something like this: product, and then slug number, and then this will be product, and this will be display is fine. If you have categories, for example, if you have categories, so what should be the path? Should be category slash slug, and the controller should be category. So you now get the point how powerful this structure is, this route system is. Okay, so if this route is matched, it will call the category controller and then the display method. Is this clear? Okay, there is one more thing. Do you remember we had this route Drupak Pakistan Wah? So it calls the Drupak controller and action is this, right? And this is very important point actually. So if I access now, do you think this this one will also be matched? For example, if I make it W, for example, this one W. W means any character, word. So let us try it. Okay, Drupak Wah and Pakistan Wah. Previously it was working fine. Now let us check if it works or not. Not found. Why? And if I comment this one, for example, where it is, the W1. Okay. If I comment this one, let us try if it again works. So if it still is not working, maybe we have messed something. Do we have controllers now? Drupak and then okay, this is DD basically. do dump. Okay, it is actually working, but we were using DD. So that DD, what's the difference between DD of the Symfony, var dumper and normal dump?
It will difference between the var dumper and DD will be it will dump the relevant code and after that it will exit the DD.
Exactly. DD means exit also.
Exit also.
So because it was in the loop, so it was getting exited rather than showing the page. So this now is working. Drupak Pakistan Wah. And if I change this to, if I uncomment, where it is, this one. Maybe this will also work for now. Wow. So it now says call to undefined. Wow. Why? Anybody?
Just check for an action.
It is checking for an action, which is in the URL. The third parameter is
action.
Wow, which is action. So now it is getting called. This one is getting called, matched. It doesn't reach here. Why? Because in the code we have written something like this. If it matches, so it returns. That's it. So once a function returns, it means it will not loop any further. So it matches the first one and it doesn't find the wah route. It doesn't reach here. It is here. If you comment it out, if this line is commented like this, so now this is the details of the group. This is details of Drupak, right? This should not confuse you because we are looping through it. So let us hide it for now. This. Okay. So we are getting Drupak Wah, but in that other sense, we are not getting it in the other route. This is known as the order. Order in routes is very important. So if there is a very generic route, we should place it above the if there is a very specific route, we should place it above the generic one. So this one is the more specific one. For example, Drupak Pakistan Wah, and we have its own controller and action, so we will cut it and place it above this one. So if it matches it, it will return it, and otherwise this one will be called. Okay, now if we have it uncommented as well, this one will be called and exit the function. So if we refresh it now, it's working fine. And if we check the other one, what it was, maybe something and then this and this, so now it will search for the controller, and if there is controller in action, it will access it. Is this clear? The order in routes is very important. If the first one is matched, it will return it. So if you have very specific routes, you should move them above the lesser specific ones. Okay, so our routing is working fine. The next step is we should not be doing all this in the index.php like this matching. We'll do this part later on, but for now, you know what is controller, you know what is action or method. So all of this matching and then dispatching is done in a separate file in frameworks, and it is normally called dispatcher. So in framework, we will create a new file and we'll call it dispatcher.php class dispatcher, and it dispatches what? You should have a namespace should be framework. No, this is inside the framework because the framework namespace. So dispatcher, and it should have maybe a constructor, should have a construct. Is it okay now? Construct. Okay. It should have constructor and another function which is known as, which can be anything, but we can call it handle. Okay, and the handle will be passed a URL, and what that URL is, whatever it is, URL, and it should be of type string. So we will move all the code from index.php, this code. For now we'll cut it and move it to the dispatcher.php handle method like this. Okay. As you can see, we have this router. So let us make, now you know what dependency injection is. So here we will pass a router route, and here we will create a private variable. We'll call it router. It's router. Okay, let us call it router and $sign router like this. So whatever is passed to it, this will become this dot router equals what? Router. This is known as dependency injection. So we are going to pass the router object to the dispatcher object, and it will be assigned to this variable inside the this variable. Now we should use what? How to change it? This dot router match simple, and similarly we'll leave the rest of the things like this. So hopefully it will be working. So that was the only change we needed to make. Handle function is now controlling all that logic of calling the controller and action, respective actions. Now in index.php, what should we do? Because we have moved that code to the handle method of dispatcher. So what should we do?
Initialize the class.
Exactly. So the dispatcher is equal to new $sign new dispatcher. What should be passed to it? Route. This route object, which we already have, router object which we have created. So $sign router, that's it. But do we have this dispatcher here? No. So how to add it? Use framework, because it is inside the framework, and dispatcher, that's it. So now new dispatcher, this, and now dispatcher handle is the method, and here we will be passing this URL. So $sign URL, that's it. Now let us try if any of that is working fine. So it's node/10, and this is display of node. It's working fine now. No, is this clear? So what we have done, we have moved all the logic from index.php, which is known as front controller, to the dispatcher class. We have separately created a dispatcher class and created a handle method in it, and it is passed a URL, and then it is doing all this. This is just cut and copy paste of that code. We are also in the constructor assigning passing the router so that it can be stored in this variable, and that's what we have done here in index.php. We have called the dispatcher class and passed it the router object, and then we are calling the handle function and then passing the URL. So it's working fine at this stage. Okay, one more thing which we have been so far missing, and that is, or let us first do this problem which we had yesterday of controlling articles / controller. Yesterday, if we had used, or maybe let us quickly create a class, new file, maybe student name.php. So that's how you name classes in PHP. So the file name should also be something like this, student name.php, right? Question mark PHP and class student and name, student name, and then we should also have a namespace which should be namespace is app/controllers, right? So it should also have a method, so maybe public function display and name. Okay, display name. So the name of the class is student name. This is basically just I forgot the name. It is known as, in PSR 4 standards, it is known as Studly caps, like this. So if the first letter of each word is capital in a class name, it is known as Studly caps. Maybe yesterday we used another name as well, but so the name should be Studly, the class name should be Studly caps, as well as the file name, and the method name should be camel case. The first name is small and the second the part of the is capital, right? So now maybe we just print this is student name for now. Okay, so if we access student name in the URL for now and display name as small caps, for example, so it will be this slash, what's the second one, display name. So even this is not working at the moment. The display name route is not found because of all the capitalizations problem is. So what we can do is we should use something like this. If we use student dash name in the URL, can you see the URL? Let me zoom it in. Okay, so if we use something like student dash name and then display dash name, right? So we can tackle with this problem. Internally we will change this to student name with S capital and N capital, and we will make it display and then just make the name capital and remove the dash. So it will then be able to access it. So let's do this now. Now we have to do all this in the dispatcher handle method, right? So this is, we only were using UC first method initially, and we also can use UC word, which is also for this purpose, but it has an advantage. UC words, sorry. So the name of the controller is placed in the detail controller function, right? So we were only using this. So let us change it. Maybe we can comment out this. Okay, dump. Let us do it stepwise. Detail controller, or maybe we can use it's the right place to use TD. Okay, so what are you expecting if I just refresh this page with student dash name? Sorry, initially it was student name. So it is not matched, so it won't be running it. It only will be available if this is matched. Right now it is not matching, that's why it is not available, but we can do it here. So you can call class name equals UC words and the detail of the controller. Like this. Okay, so it will make the first one capital, but it should also have dash with it, the second argument as dash. So what it will do, so if there is a word, for example, which has both the letters, for example, if something is like this, student dash name, if this is a string, so what it will do, it will make it student dash name like this. Okay, so the second argument is for this purpose, that you can, after this dash, you can capitalize the second word also. Okay, so this is fine. UC words detail this, so it will make it capitalized. Next is we have to remove that dash from the name. So how can we do that? Class name again is equal to string underscore replace. Do you remember the function string replace? And it will replace dash with empty string in this class name, like this. So now the first time, for example, student dash name is the class name, controller name. So what it will become, student dash name. Then we have used the string replace function, so it will replace this string with empty string. So how it will become then? Student name. That's what we have done. Is this okay? So hopefully this code will be working, and the class name now will be all studly caps. Now let us redo the class, or maybe we can just move this into, we can just move this code. The class, we should concatenate namespace also with class name. So just remove this one and we'll make it class name. So that's the full class name now. Similarly, we should do something with the action name also. So if there is an action, for example, display dash name. Okay, display dash name. So how should we deal with it? We will leave the first one empty as it is, and the second one capitalized like this. All right. So how can we do this now? Let us do this the same for action. Okay, so action name equals, you see words this, but it will be now both the words will be capital. But for now let us do it like this, and then we will remove this. So let us copy this code. Action name string underscore, replace this with this and action name. But it is now exactly like the class. We should have the first one should be small. So what's the method for that? PHP function first letter small caps, UC first, the first character of a string to uppercase and LC first, yes, comes the first character of a lowercase. So now we can use the LC first. So action name equals LC first, and we'll pass what? We'll pass the action name to it. Okay, so now if a function is like this, display dash name, so it will become display name. Okay, let us refresh. Hopefully there will be something. So it will be student dash name and display dash name, student dash name and display dash name. And which one of the classes will be sorry, let us check the route here first. If we are using this, so this is display dash name and this is action. This one should be fired, but it is not working at the moment. Display session, let us move it for a time being to the top and see if it starts working. And what's the student name? Display name, this is fine. Student, it is student, that's why it is not found, the spelling mistake. Student dash name, display dash name, student dash name, display dash name, route not found. Where is the route not found error coming?
In the dispatch.
Route not found. Okay, so let us debug it why it is not functioning. App dash controllers, the URL is in the router. Let us debug URL first. dd $path student name dash name display dash name, so it is fine. It's in small letters, yes. Okay, so now this route says this detail pattern changed out to this code is not working actually, this one. Okay, so let us dump the OTD dump pattern, check what the pattern is.
after DD it's exit.
No, it should
Remove this DD path.
oh yeah. So this is the zoom it out. This one is the one we need. So controller is A to Z and this. Okay, got it. We may be having we may need some dashes also in the, because we are not using dash. So let us add this to the regex, this one. And maybe if somebody adds underscore, that's also good. So let us now try that. What is it? Sorry, not here. This dash and underscore. Okay, so now we are getting the required. At least if an error changes, it means things are fine now. Okay, so now it says undefined. Maybe we have just slight change to make here. UC word detail action. So action name and then string underscore replace with this. Okay. Else
We have to pass the action name to the action $ action before the controller.
action name this. Yes, thank you very much. $sign action name, thank you. Okay, so if I just refresh it, this is the student name. So this dump will really help you, especially, and this was needed. So now if you need something like this where you need two-part word for a class or controller, so you can use them in the URL like this, and they will be automatically converted to such routes. Student name, this is the class, and this is the display name. So what you can do is you can specify that in the URL. Is this clear? Sorry, we got stuck, but because we had slight change to make in the regex which we are returning from here, and that's what we made. We had to add this underscore here and dash. Okay, now the next question is, maybe you should have asked this, that if there is, I will go back to the node/10 example, this one. So it is being matched, but we are not passing this 10 to the method as of yet. We are not passing 10 to the action. So if I go to the node class, this is where I want that ID to be passed to this function, and then this is the display of node ID, and then the variable should be $ID, whichever is passed to it. This one, for example, this is the ID, or we have named it slug, right? So it should be slug. So whatever is passed as a parameter, just like get parameters, it should be going into the method. So this is the next step we are going to do. Right now it will be maybe some error, uncaught few arguments to display. So if, for example, if we come to dispatcher again and we call our action here, we call the action here. So technically, if a method has something like this, So we should pass that value here. For example, if it's 10, so it should be 10. But we don't know what the ID will be. So if we had just this controller and action, in our case, if I go to the URL node/10, so in our case, now the controller is node and the slug is 10. So if that was the only class and method to be used here, so we could hard code something called slug here, okay, and that is available in the detail already. If I dump detail here, let me quickly do it, and you will see that the slug is here. So you can see the slug is part of that array, of the detail array, and controller is node and action is display. So this is that value which we can pass dynamically to this action here. So what it should be, detail and slug, like this. But we can have hundreds of classes, and each controller or each route can have its own parameters or slugs. For example, all these. So right now we are passing the slug, but maybe in products it is something else, and here we have other types of routers. So this is not the way out, because we have to deal with all the classes and methods dynamically. So we can easily do this, and now the error will be gone and we will be able to see the result. And let us try that as well. For example, I have passed detail slug to the action. So if I refresh the page, this page, so now this value is dynamic 10, and it can be, if I pass say 50, and now it is 50. So it is working, but only for this class, and we are building a framework, not just for one class. We are using this action method. So what we need to do is, we need to have some mechanism where automatically we should know. For example, if this action requires say detail PID, for example, if there is a class, its controller or its method requires this PID, so it should automatically pass PID to it, not slug. Similarly, if there is CID, AID, whatever, so we should be able to dynamically pass those parameters, and we can achieve that via something called reflection. Reflection is a number of classes, reflection PHP, and it has a lot of classes. We'll be using 2 of them. It's the family of classes, you can say, okay. Then reflection class, and it has a reflection class count, a lot of stuff you will see about reflection. So what reflection classes do, they provide metadata, you can say metadata about classes and methods in PHP, okay. So let us demonstrate this, how we will be able to do something with the reflection classes, okay. So before this method here, let me create a new, maybe reflection, and let us call it method. This is a variable, new reflection method. You can see your editor will let you know all of these reflection classes, but the one we need right now is reflection method, this one, reflection method, this right, this is the class, and it has 2 parameters. So if a class has 2 parameters, what does this mean? Basically they will be going to the constructor of the class.
Yes, sir.
Right? So, and we should use the use statement at the top of the page. So use reflection and method. So here we should pass two things, and those two things are, the first one is controller. So we already have the controller variable here, controller, and then the action. So we already have the action variable. This is the action variable, and by the way, we are assigning a variable to action, and we can use action name also. This is just redundant code. Okay, so so new reflection method is equal to what? It is passed two parameters, the controller and the action. Now let us reflection method has now been instantiated, and it has a method of get parameters. So just, you are good enough PHP and JavaScript developers now. Can you tell me what should be the return value of this? If an action has more than one value, for example a parameter, so how many values will be here? What should it be returning? Well done, it's array. So we can call it parameters equals this, and let me dump parameters now. And if we refresh the page, it's an array, and the class is reflection parameter, and the name is slug, right? The name is slug. So how does it know that it's the name of the parameter is slug? Because if you go to the news controller, sorry, it is node, to the node, it's the method is display, so its parameter is slug. For example, let me just change it to slug id, pid, aid. For example, this method is now passed 4 parameters, right? So how many values will be there now in here if I refresh the page? 4, right? So this is an array of reflection parameters, and so let me remove these now. We just need slug. Okay, so if I go to the dispatcher again, what do you now parameter has all the parameters required for this action, right? But we will create a temp, or maybe params array equals this. It's an empty array. Now we will be looping through params, and it has, by the way, a method called get name. Okay, so for each parameters, because there can be more than one parameter, so we should be looping through all those for each parameters as params, for example. So if I go back, this one is param, this in each loop this will be a param, and it's an object itself, so we can access its property called, not the params, but maybe we can call parameter. So param get name, probably, yes. Let me just dump it for now. So we if I refresh it, it's slug for now, because we change it again, so it has just one value now. The node, it has just one. So if I just change it to say again aid, so now how many will it have? 2. So that's this, these are the names, just names, right? Okay, let me remove it again. So rather than dumping, we should be assigning it as a key to this temp array, this params array. So params, sorry, params array and this equals, if I use this params name here, what does this mean? It will be the key. Sorry. Param get name. So this returns, as you saw, a string of the parameter, right? So params array string means it will be the key of this array, and it should be equal to what? We already have dump detail, so detail already has the slug coming up here. This is a slug. So this name and that name should be equal. Do you agree? So how can we access this 50 now? Details slug. Good. It will be detail and slug, but we need to be dynamic, so this name and that name is the same. So whatever is that name, its value will be stored here. Okay, so param get name, detail param get name. So if I dump param array now, what do you expect?
Slug will be the key and equal to 50.
Exactly. So slug 50. The array is now slug 50. Here we have just one entry, but let us now just change the values. Maybe they are empty, but if we add more parameters to the display method, so all of them will have their values and names here. Got it? Now we should move. We have values now in this param array, so in action what we can do is we can pass those values here, slug, AID, BID, whatever. So we can do something like this, slug, AID, BID, whatever, how many, if you have a lot of parameters, so all of them can be passed here, but we are going to make this dynamic. We already have those parameters here, so we can use dot spread operator is now in PHP as well. So params array, so it will spread all the values, so it has slug, AID, so all those will be automatically passed here, right? And if you refresh the page, so now it is 100% dynamic, 60, and is this clear? What we did, reflection classes are used basically to get parameter names and values dynamically, because you cannot go manually to each classes, every class, and then copy its name and then run the logic. So they help you. It's metadata about your methods and classes in PHP. So what we did, just new reflection method, it is passed to things, controller and action. So it will give you this object. It has a method called get parameters. So what it returns the parameters of that particular action, and then we are looping through that, and it has a method. Each entry has a method called get name, so we save that name as a key in the params array and assign the same value to from the detail page. So if it is a detail array, if the slug has some value, it will be stored here, and then we pass those parameters to the action. Hope this is clear. When you practice it, it will be all okay again.
The spread operator is used to make a copy of an array.
It sorts of opens it. For example, this is an array, params.
In JavaScript, what we have to study, I think it is making a copy of an array.
So for example, it has three values, A, $B, $C, for example, something like this. Okay, so if we spread it, it means we have A without the array, B and C. So then you can pass it to your values. Okay, so hope this is clear now.
Yes.
The next thing is we still have a lot of code to improve, and if you go to the maybe news controller. So how can we access this a news controller and this news model? Let me just check. We have this controller and this action. So basically this will fire if we access news controller. So for example, if we access news dash controller, yesterday prior to the break we use this. So news controller, and it has a deal method like this. So if we access it, so we have some errors because we have moved the models and views to different folders, so it is not accessing, but at least it is working. This is the controller. Let me zoom it in. So this is the controller, news dash controller. So which controller will be run? News capital controller, and this is the method. Okay, so let us go to this controller now. News controller. Let us recap how we had built it initially. Go to the first class, you will know how we did things here. So it requires news model .php, then the news model is the class, and then we run the query. So if you go to the news model here, we are using hard-coded database connections, and it is returning all the news from it and returning it, fetch all. Yes. Right? Yes. So now we have to improve it and use our views properly here. How should views be? We are including views directly in the news controller here. Require view.php. So this is not the proper way of doing it. We are in the controllers deal method and including views like this. So let us start something with the views first. So in the framework, let us create a class and call it viewer.php. So it is going to be a class which will include the views files for us. Right now we are doing it directly in the controller. That's not the way. So let us create this class viewer, and what should be its namespace? Framework, rather just framework, because we are directly in the framework folder. So class viewer, it should have a method public function render. Okay, render will be passed to two variables. So, or maybe the second one after this test. So the first one should be string and path, file name or file name. Okay, so what this will do, this render method, it will include the file for us. So for example, if I pass it news.php, so it will include news.php, and let me do that, require _once, and for example whatever is the file name, so file name dot, maybe we don't need to break it into separate, but .php. So whatever is passed as the file name, it will be included by it. Is it okay? And we don't need quotation marks. Is this clear?
Yes.
Okay, now we need to include this in the controller. We already have two views files. One is articles view and another is news.view. Okay. So if I go to this controller now, here we need to include that viewer class. So what should we do? What's the best way out? Yeah, so we can use dependency injection. Okay, so for example, we will create a variable private viewer and $viewer, right? This is viewer class, so we should use it. How to use it? Framework, and it will be auto loaded for us. Framework / viewer, like this, right? Okay, this is now, so how to assign this value to it? It is always mostly done in constructor. So we need to have for the news controller, we should have a constructor also. So public function underscore construct, and it will be passed what? Viewer and $viewer. What's the next step? So this dot this is the viewer. Okay, so this dot viewer equals whatever is passed to it. Okay, viewer. And remember, this is the object. Refer to the dependency injection class, you will know what we are doing. Okay, so now the news controller has a viewer variable, or and that actually is the viewer class. So
it will be new viewer.
Once it is being passed, once we are initializing the news controller, so it will be passed a viewer object. Okay. The next thing is, in the deal method, we are going to fix this news model as well as this model. We will use the dependency injection for it as well. But right now the variable is news, so here we are requiring news PHP. So we should not do it now. What should it be? This viewer, good, and we have the render method, and as I said, we are passing it the string for the file name. So the file name for that is news_view. News_view. So this dot viewer render this. So whichever view you are including, it should be included like this. Okay. So if you go to the render method again, so you can see we are passing it a file name and it is including it. Require once file name .php. So basically this way now we are including, but it looks appealing to the eye as well. So if you are in the controller, here it just calls this dot viewer, because this is now available here, and the render method on it, and it will do the. But there is a problem now. If we run the class, rather than using the require statement for news model, how can we require it now here? Anybody?
To
use the so we will use it at the top of the page here. Use it is in models. If you go to, this is the models and news model, right? So use app models yes / news model. That's it. So it is now in the scope. So here what we need to do is, we can use, for now let us just do it with the new. So new news model, and it will be working fine now, right? Yes. News this, and if you remember in the view for news model, we are using this one. We are using the news variable as in, and it will be outputting all the
Yes, sir.
news.
Yes.
Remember?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay. So now in the controller we have the news variable, and we are this dot viewer render this. And in the viewer we have this include file. So do you think this will be available now if I refresh the page? What's that? News controller deal. What's the problem? Anybody? Uncaught argument count error, too few arguments to function controllers news controller construct. So news controller, we are calling the controller in dispatcher here. Where is the new?
After the action class.
This is.
Yes.
So controller is equal to new class. So for example, if this is here, now the class name will be news controller, but the news controller is expecting what? If you can see, now we have changed it to something like this. It is expecting what? Viewer object. Well done. So what we need to do is, and this is again the short term fix, because we will have to have dynamic values for these also. That we will be doing in the next class, but for now we are going to fix the viewer stuff for us. So here right now, new class, we will be right now just dynamically creating, not dynamically, but it's a hard coded viewer class. So how to initialize it? New viewer, like this. And should we be including it here? Yes or no?
We have to include it. Yes.
In the use, do you think?
Use, yes.
No, because both are the same namespace. We are in the dispatcher class, and viewer is also in the dispatcher class. Sorry, the framework namespace is framework for dispatcher also, and the viewer also is in framework. So we don't need to use it here. We can directly call it like this. Okay, now this is the object, so we can pass it to the class like this. Excuse me. So this means we are passing it to the constructor of the controller class, news controller class, because we have now used the controller here. Now the error will be gone. Okay, so now inside we are in the model. That error at least has gone. Why is it giving us this error? Anybody? If you go to the news model .php, the models, here we need to use video or with slashes, if you remember. So this error will be gone too. Okay, now the error has changed. I am doing it stepwise just to let you know what is happening actually. So now the required ones, news PHP failed to open stream no such file or directory in. It's actually in the views folder. So where is it? Go to the viewer, and it should be views dot something like this. If you refresh it, so that error has gone. Now we are including the views news.php, but there is now a new error, undefined variable news on line 4. So this if we come to the views class, this one, news view, this variable is not available here, though we have created it in the controller. What's the reason? Anybody? Controllers, news controller, and this the new the model is called, and this is the news. It has the data here, but we are including it here, and because we are including the new file from the new class, so this news is not available there in the viewer PHP. So what's the concept here behind here? from controllers you have to send a variable to the view. Whatever variable you have in the controller which is being output from either the model or any custom variable, you have to pass that to any view you are using. Okay, so we should have a second parameter here, and it should be an array. Okay, like this, an array argument, and you can make, for example, news, it's a key, and the value should be this news, $ news. Now we are passing this array to this view, and there it should be available as news. Okay, so how to do that? And if we now go to the viewer class, this is the viewer class. Here we should have a second parameter, and that's a data parameter, and by default it should be empty array, like this, right? So file name and data, so we have now passed that here. And before including the view file, we should do something called, and this is a bit like spread operators array. So there is a function in PHP called extract. If I dump array here, do you think what should be here in the array? Dump data. Dump data. If I just refresh the page, so you can see this is a news, and it has two sub arrays, and it has then the titles, NID title. These values are from the database. Okay, so this news key is what we need here, not the whole array. Not the whole array, we need just the news key. Let me just repeat, this is an array with a news key, right? So we have to make this into a variable itself here. So what we can do is we can do data news, data news, and assign it a value $news, like this. Okay, and let me just remove this. So this news is, so we can have like 10 values in this array. If I go back to news controller, for example, this is just one value. If I make another values like page, for example, page, and it is $page, for example, right? So now how many values will be there in this viewer? Here we can assign a page equals what? $data page, like this, and so on. So there is a shortcut for this, and that is the extract function. So if a data has an array has a lot of values like these, what we can do is extract, and what this data variable which is being passed to it, data, and it has a second argument as well, extr_skip. This is a constant, which means if there already is a variable here, for example, news here is defined here somewhere, so then it will skip it. Otherwise, right now this news becomes available here automatically. So extract function does, it takes the values from an array and make it a variable. So for example, this is the new data array, so it will extract the values from this array and make this key as a variable, $news. So now $news will be an array. This is now available as a variable here. Got it?
Yes.
So if I dump it now, dump news, do you think it will be available? So it is available. You can see now it's direct array, not in the news. So news now is a value which is available here. Sorry, what I deleted this. Okay, So now we require once views, and if I refresh the page, we have an extra parameter there. We should not use that. There is an error from the news controller. We should remove this page. That was just a dummy one. So if I refresh the page, you can see we are getting both the records now. It's working fine because the news variable became available to the view, this view, and here we are looping through it. That's it. So what's the process? Let me quickly write down that process for you in the viewer, maybe here as a few comments. So always pass, not here but rather in the controller. So the data is passed from controller to the view in this style as an array. In the viewer class, that data is extracted, and hence it becomes available as variables to the view. Got it? That's the process. This was a variable. It was not included in the new system. It was not available in the view, but now we are passing it to the render method like this as an array. And in the viewer class, this is the viewer class, here that second argument becomes available via the data attribute, and here we are extracting it. So extracting means the key becomes a variable. So if I had some value assigned, it will be available in the scope, and then it is passed to this variable. There is one change we need to make. We are just including the file and running it. We cannot reuse this output. This is a distinction we should do now. For example, I have to email the output of this view. The power of MVC is that we can use the view for any of our purposes. The view, for example, if you have to use it, save it in the database or email it or whatever. So right now it is just including the view and outputting it. It is we cannot catch it.
Yes.
Just like the function return statement. So what we can do is, there is some concept. It is ob_start. It's a PHP built-in function, ob_start, and this function is also used if you have got something like headers are already sent. This is used in that context as well. You can go to Google and learn about that. So ob_starts basically starts a buffer, and buffer is, for example, it starts saving the output, but it doesn't render it on the page yet, right? So for example, this is ob_start means it will save all this output, and only on demand it will start displaying or returning it. So what we can do, the next thing is return ob_get clean method. So now it is not including it. It is including it, but the output is stored, and the output gets output from here as a return statement. Okay. So ob_get clean, the output now is not immediately included in run, but it is returned to the controller here. If we include it, so now that output is here, output from view, for example. Okay, now this is the output. It has not been automatically included and run on the page. Now we can do something with this output. So we can just print it. Now we can print it even if you want to email it. For example, you have the email function already, so you can email it. If you were including it automatically, we were including it just so it would be displaying on the browser, and we could not do anything with the output. So print, sorry, Now we will print it out, and that's it. Got it?
Yes.
Just like the function return statement,
Yes, sir.
this is now returning us output rather than directly outputting it. So hopefully there won't be any change. It's the same, and we can directly also print it without assigning it to the variable. So print this. Is this clear?
Yes.
So this views in system in MVC is very powerful because it lets you use your views for any purpose, even emailing on maybe if you are going to save it to database and all. So that's what we should do now. Excuse me. Is this clear now? So we have sort of completed the views we would be using. So what should be your workflow for using views? You should include it from you should use it as dependency injection. As a dependency injection, you should inject it into the controller you have, right? And then call the render method and the name of the view. Okay? And if there are some variables which you want to display, so you should send an array to it.
Yes,
Like this, just so this key will become a variable there. How? With the help of extract function in the viewer.php. This is the viewer.php. Okay, so we have a route. Let me just quickly use that as a example so that we know we have set up things correctly, and that is the route is student name. If you remember, we had a route student display name. So student name and display name. This was to test our dashes. So student name, display name, right? So it's going to be student dash name, display dash name. So this is displaying the student name right now. But if in the center we use something like we have a where it is the routes, we have this route, controller, ID, and this. So if within these we use something else,
yes,
what that will be? It will become as ID. Slug will be ID, and it becomes available to us. So for example, if I use Azmat slash this, okay,
yes,
and I click on enter, so you can see we are already dumping a lot. So in the array, this is the detail array. So the controller is student and the ID is Azmat. So we now need to make this ID available to, and we should output this is student name as a view, not directly in the controller. We are right now doing it in the controller. If you go to student.name, you can see we are directly displaying it in the controller, and we should not be doing it like this. So how can we do it? First, let us create a view here in the views folder. We'll call it student underscore name. By the way, there is a naming convention inside the views. You should create folders. So, okay, so we should create a folder for student name. The folder should be corresponding to the controller name. Okay, so let me quickly create a folder first. New folder, it should be student name. So if for example I have a folder here and its name is say news model, what should this mean? All the views of the news model controller will be in that file.
yes, sir.
So it is very easily organized this way. So here we will create a file and call it maybe name.php or whatever, or even index.php. You can have anything here. So name.php, right? So in the views we have created a student name folder. So this name will let you know maybe after a few months of your own code that, oh, this folder is about this controller,
Yes.
right? So student name and then name.php. So here you can have any output. Maybe we can use h1 here, and my name is $, and sorry, I'm a php, and the view should have just loops and php variables. Okay, printed. So print $id, because id is the name, going to be the name, for example, if the variable is id. So this is the view. We should be using this view rather than directly outputting the student name in the controller display function, right? So what should we do in the display? First thing is we should inject again. Let us do it from news controller, so it will be easier. We will copy the private view viewer, rather this part of the controller, and come to student name, and above the student name display function we should use this and include use framework and viewer. So the first step is to include or inject the viewer class, and we are doing it using the construct function. So this dot viewer becomes available. Now the display name is this. We should not be doing it like this. We have now the view mechanism set up. So what should we do? This id, this display name should be passed an argument which is id. And where does this come from? We already have set up it today using reflection.
Yes.
So whatever is coming in the URL, it will be passed to the method via the reflection mechanism we have set up. So here what should we do is, and again look the concept of model view controller. We don't need any database for it, for example. So controller will decide it doesn't need any model.
Yes.
So we can directly call the view.
Execute it.
So here what should be the code? This dot viewer. What's the method name? Render. And what is passed to the render method? The name of the view file, this one. So it's student name and name.php. So it should be student name slash and just the name, okay, not .php with it. And the second parameter is going to be the data array, and that data, there we have used the id, so we can use id here as well, id. And where is this id coming from? Anybody? This id, whatever is passed to it. So $id, that's it. Now the viewer class will do the rest. It will include it and pass this id as the parameter. So if I refresh the page, what's the problem? id is being passed, but it is not being returned, because as I said, this returns the output now.
Yes,
Via that ob underscore start. This is not including it, so we have to print it. Ignore all these debug statements. So this is now dynamically coming from the yeah. If I change it to afaq, for example, so it will be afaq. So how is it coming now? It's again, I mean, this is start for you. Just with some practice you will know what is happening. But this is being the router is matched, then the controllers and methods are found, then via the reflection code we wrote today, we know this has to be passed to the method. It's passed to the method, and it includes the viewer class, which includes the view itself, and outputs the code. It's a very powerful mechanism now. So we will continue in the next lecture. We have to improve it, all the code, further in the next class. Thank you.